Longtime NHL veteran Corey Perry is signed with the Montreal Canadiens. We'll discuss the contract and how this will impact their team coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now we have some more breaking news from the NHL. The Montreal Canadiens have made a fairly significant signing here, signing longtime veteran forward Corey Perry to a pretty team-friendly contract here. It's a one-year deal at $750,000. Of course, Perry had been linked to Montreal before during the offseason here after free agency had begun. There was some talk that he was looking at teams in Eastern Canada, including the Maple Leafs, the Senators, and the Habs. It seems as though there was a good possibility he was going to end up playing in a Canadian market somewhere in the eastern part of Canada. We've talked about that on multiple occasions. There really hadn't been a lot of talk that he was going to be returning to Dallas for some time. So this is a landing spot that's not overly surprising. So of course Montreal continues to make adjustments and make moves here. We've seen him do a lot during his current offseason. Look at the forward group in the blue line. Obviously Marc Bergevin has made it known he wants to make this team tougher, grittier, and harder to play against. And I also think by signing Corey Perry, they definitely feel like they are a playoff team, given the fact that Corey Perry is a much better playoff performer in recent years than he has been in the regular season. Case in point, last year, obviously his regular season with Dallas was not great. There were certainly times, I think, during that regular season that it was even debatable if it was a good signing or not. But then after they returned in the bubble in the playoffs, the old Corey Perry kind of returned, and it certainly looked like it was a great signing, and he was a big part of the Stars going as far as they did and coming really close to winning the Stanley Cup last year. So to me, you look at this forward group and you add in some more experience in Corey Perry, who has won a Stanley Cup before in his early days with the Anaheim Ducks, a ton of playoff experience, ton of regular season experience. They just added Michael Frolik a few days ago as well. Some more extra depth, another very experienced player, different kind of player, but still a couple of veteran guys who can really play and contribute in their bottom six. They obviously brought in some other players earlier, like Josh Anderson, for example, Tyler Toffoli. They brought in Joel Edmondson on the back end. They're going to have Romanov jumping up. Obviously, the youngster will have a big impact, I think, on the blue line. They have Jake Allen as the backup goalie. There's a lot of change, and I honestly think you can like a lot of what they've done here. And like I said, I think they're convinced they're a playoff team. They certainly want to make a point to get some more size, some more grit, and be a lot harder to play against, especially where you're going to be in a condensed season with a condensed schedule. You're going to have expanded rosters, and you're also going to be playing the same teams a lot. So it's going to almost feel like a playoff series at times, playing 2, 3, 4 games back to back to back in the same market and the same team. So obviously those are going to be important to have a deep roster and to be tough to play against, because they're going to need it. It's going to feel like a long playoff run, in my opinion, before we even get to the playoffs. So I like this signing by Montreal. I really do. Now, of course, according to CapFriendly.com, I'll give you a quick snapshot here, that does put them over the cap by about $1.1 million. Obviously, that's not too much of an issue, though, for Montreal. They can likely go with a smaller roster. That also gives them 14 forwards on the roster, according to the way the CapFriendly has things structured right now, as well as 7 defensemen and 2 goalies. So obviously, they can make some adjustments. They can obviously move some of those players to the taxi squad. It might mean, though, that somebody with a little bit more experience might have to go through waivers. Maybe even a guy like a Jordan Wheel, for example, might be the odd man out. We'll have to see how training camp goes, but Wheel's contract coming out of there would be the kind of the perfect amount, where he's making, I think it was $1.5 million. So that would be kind of ideal in order to make them cap compliant. But we will see. They could make a small trade, find a way to move out of players. I mentioned in yesterday's video, there's been some talk about Victor Mete maybe being the odd man out on the blue line. By no means is there anything imminent on that front. I don't think it's something the Habs are going to rush into. They very well could get through camp and make that type of deal a little bit later. But at the same time, as I mentioned, you're also going to have a season where you're going to need more depth. So even though Mete is a player who, for the most part, has kind of had his times off and on where he's been a regular player, he may not be as regular this year with the additional players they've brought in, but it still might be something they decide to keep around a little bit longer as well. So we will see. The expanded rosters is going to be, having a different effect on the NHL this year. And this Corey Perry signing, like I said, we'll have to enforce a few minor adjustments here in the Habs roster, but it's nothing that they are really going to be sweating over for sure. Like I said, they can either move somebody to a taxi squad, which will require waivers most likely, or they very well could make a small trade or something, depending on what other teams are looking for. So let me know your thoughts on the Corey Perry signing in Montreal. Maybe we can discuss further down in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content. We'll keep you up to date with everything going around the NHL and all 31 NHL markets. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.